Hey everyone, it's Reality. Welcome back to my channel. Let's jump into this breastfeeding, what I wish I would have known, and some good tips for you if you are a breastfeeding mom. So I have been exclusively breastfeeding for 2 months, over 2 months now. And I know you're kind of like, that's a short amount of time. What do you really know? But my breastfeeding journey has been a roller coaster, and I've learned just so much. I've learned so much about breastfeeding, and right now, me and my daughter have an amazing breastfeeding bond relationship. It's very easy. It's very effortless. The only thing now is just getting her to be taking a bottle. So yeah, if you're watching this video before you give birth, or maybe you're having a hard time breastfeeding, but one of these tips is gonna help you because this is everything that you need to know in your breastfeeding journey. The first thing is latching. So there's a latching and an unlatching technique that saves me from so much pain. So when your baby is latching on, try to open up your baby's mouth, have your partner pull down on the baby's chin so that your baby can get a full grasp on your nipple. If they're just sucking like the little nipple part and not the entire like areola, then they're gonna be taking in a lot of air and it's gonna cause you to be having a lot of pain. So, and also if they take in a lot of air, that could cause them to be very gassy. So making sure that you latch on properly is really important. My baby was able to latch immediately, but I noticed that I was starting to get pain whenever she was drinking, even though her latch on got better. And I realized I was letting her unlatch herself and it was hurting every single time. So in order for your baby to unlatch, you should assist your baby and help open his or her mouth so that she can be completely taken off the boob, and it's a very gentle unlatch instead of that hard one where she's ripping off and it's just like giving you so much pain on your nipple. But really taking advantage of that lactation specialist that they give you for a resource at the hospital. I talked to the lactation specialist before I left the hospital about every single thing. I had her examine me multiple times on 2 different days just because I wanted her to look and see anything that I needed to change to make the breastfeeding more comfortable. Because there's different positions that you can do, or putting an arm underneath your pillow and stuff like that that can make it more comfortable when you breastfeed, so that you're not overworking your back and you're not hurting yourself or bending over for your baby. So whenever you're at the hospital, they will give you contact information for a lactation specialist. You can take that number, make sure that you keep it somewhere where you don't lose it, so that you can call the lactation specialist when you go home, because you may bump into a problem because breastfeeding is not very seamless like it seems like it is. So you more than likely will have another problem arise that you need to figure out when it comes to breastfeeding. So you can call the lactation specialist at the hospital. You can reach out to them. It's a free resource that you should definitely take advantage of. And make sure you keep the information when you leave the hospital. The next tip is something that I did know and I feel like really worked for me, which is feeding every 2 hours during the day, but especially at night. So for the first 2 weeks, I was feeding her. I was setting an alarm overnight and making sure that she ate every 2 hours. And I know that for some people, they're like, oh, I don't think I really need to do that, which is fine. But I'll tell you why I feel like it worked in my advantage was because, one, she didn't have any problems gaining weight. She did not have a problem gaining weight, and I did not have a problem with my milk supply. And those two kind of go hand in hand. But I think being consistent with breastfeeding even through the night, it allowed my milk supply to grow in stronger those first 2 weeks, and it allowed her to have the proper weight gain that she needed. Making milk takes consistency. It takes consistent pumping, but I know every woman's experience is different, and some women do that and they don't have a milk supply, and I completely understand that. But if you're gonna, before you give up, try to consistently, if you're pumping or you're breastfeeding, consistently do it. Set an alarm, set a routine so that your baby is eating at least every 2 hours, and it'll help your body figure out how much milk needs to be produced for your baby. One fun fact about breastfeeding is that immediately postpartum is that it helps your uterus contract so that it allows your uterus to heal faster. And you'll feel it whenever you're breastfeeding, like at the hospital, that you will have that release of blood because your uterus is contracting and it's still getting rid of some of that unnecessary blood in your body. And I just feel like that's so beautiful. It's so amazing. And it's just another advantage of not only for your baby breastfeeding, but also for yourself. The next tip is something that I wish I would have known, which is giving your baby a bottle sooner. There is this topic about nipple confusion. And I was scared of that, and I got told by the lactation specialist, her pediatrician, you know, doctors, that you guys have a great latch, you guys have a great thing going on, you don't want to mess it up by introducing the nipple from the bottle. And I don't know if it would have actually caused her to be confused, because I think it was more of a headache. Now, I'm not going to say more because I didn't experience that, but it's been a bigger headache trying to get her to take a bottle because she's so used to the nipple. And I have a few friends that actually introduced a bottle like 3 up to a week postpartum, and their baby can go back and forth between bottle and nipple. So it's really up to you as a mom. If you are scared of the risk of your child being nipple confused, then you may want to hold off. But I'm telling you from experience, waiting longer, and I even waited like 3 weeks, so it wasn't that long, but it was long enough to where my baby was super comfortable with the boob that it was a struggle trying to get her to take a bottle. Finally, she did take a bottle. This is the one that she likes, and my tip for that is to really find a bottle that looks like your nipple, like one that mimics your nipple. They can only be so soft, you know, it's not a real nipple, but you want to find one that is shaped like your nipple. It may be as big as your nipple, as little, as long, as short. All those things matter whenever you're looking for a bottle that your baby is going to like. And another thing with taking a bottle sooner is that you're going to have the freedom. Breastfeeding is nice. The thought of it is nice because you don't have to buy any formula. If you want to compare it to that, it's free, but it's also very, very time consuming. And if you're the only one that can feed because your baby won't take a bottle, you're going to have to be very, very, very present. So if you do have to go back to work, or you do have something coming up where you're going to be away from your baby for over 2 hours, you're going to have to make sure that your baby is introduced to a bottle ahead of time, so that your baby is already used to it and it's not a headache trying to get her to take one down the line. On top of the bottles, make sure that you do choose a bottle that is anti-colic. If you're not familiar with colic, it's, in a nutshell, when your baby gets a lot of gas, a lot of air, which causes a lot of gas into their body, and they can be very, very fussy. And so that's usually with that can usually happen with bottle babies. So make sure that the bottle does have anti-colic, which is basically a vent system in the bottle that allows some of the air to release so it's not going into your baby. There's several anti-colic brands. There's Tommy Tippy, there's Como Tomo. These are all bottles that we definitely tried in the beginning. She just didn't like the nipple. And so the Lancino bottle is also anti-colic as well. The next thing, which I wish I would have known, is about having a strong letdown. So whenever I got home, I realized that my daughter was just having a hard time taking the milk. She would gag a little bit. It just felt like she was getting so much. And so I Googled it, and I found out, and I actually talked to the lactation specialist, that I have a strong letdown. So a couple of things with a strong letdown is that you want to express some of that milk first. So having a strong letdown pretty much means that you're not oversupplying, but you have a lot that comes down fast at the initial part of the feeding. And so what you can do is make sure you express that milk first in the beginning, because the strong letdown will go away over some time. But express that milk. It could be using your hands, maybe like in the shower, or if don't have that much free time, I would strongly recommend investing in a Haka. It's only $13. I don't know why I'm saying invest, but it's literally something that's so simple and it's so feasible to use in breastfeeding. So it's a manual like squeezer pump, and it's better than your real pump because you don't have to set everything up, and it's easy to clean, and you don't have to plug anything in. So you want to express some of that milk using your Haka for like a minute or two. Get some of that letdown first, and then your baby can latch on, and they'll have the milk that's coming out will just be in droplets, and it's not going to be a stream. Like the letdown comes out in a stream, maybe like multiple streams. And if your baby is super young, like less than a week old, less than 2 weeks old, that's going to be a lot for them to take in. Checking for a strong letdown, this could cause your baby to be fussy whenever they're feeding, to overeat, and also gag a little bit because it's too much milk for them at one time. That brings me to something really important for us moms, is mastitis. Breastfeeding moms have very high chances of getting mastitis during breastfeeding, and this is pretty much inflammation of the breast. This could be caused from having your breast engorged for a longer period of time. So maybe when your baby is napping a little bit longer, or your body just hasn't regulated your milk supply yet, it could cause your boobs to get engorged, which just means they're full of milk. The milk ducts are full of milk. Check out for that. And the only way that you can prevent that is to make sure that, one, whenever your baby is feeding, they're drinking as much milk as possible, and when they're done, you can pump the rest of the milk out. Don't leave a full boob for an extended period of time. And I'm talking about for at least an hour. If you leave that full boob, it's gonna get more milk in it, and then it's gonna get engorged. So making sure that your baby is emptying your boobs, and if they're not eating that much, go grab your Haka, go grab your pump, and pump the rest of that milk out. The next tip is, whenever you're in the shower, express some of that milk out with the warm water and the warm towel. And the reason you need the warmth is because some of that milk in your milk duct can harden and it won't come out easily. So whenever you put the warm water on there, it will loosen that milk up, and then it'll finally come out. You don't want to have any clogged milk ducts. Always check on your boobs, because you could be sleeping and wake up out of nowhere and you're like, oh my God, my boob is like rock hard. So if you do feel that, immediately go pump, massage it out. You could prevent yourself from getting mastitis. I experienced mastitis before, very low grade mastitis, and I knew that something was wrong because I was having these really bad aches and chills. And it was whenever my boob was engorged, and it happened 2 times. And so I just put 2 and 2 together, and I reached out to my OB, and she was like, that's definitely some low grade mastitis, and if it gets any worse, you'll have to be on an antibiotic. And so I immediately started looking up ways to prevent it, if you do have it, to help it. You know, I took a pain medication. I don't ever take pain medicine, but I did have some from my birth, so I took one of those. That actually really helped because it helped the inflammation. But getting rid of the milk and making sure that you're not engorged is the #1 thing to prevent and fix the mastitis if it hasn't gotten worse. But if mastitis does get bad, it could cause an abscess. Like I said, you would have to be on antibiotics. So just make sure that you don't let it get bad, that you notice some of the signs and symptoms. I'll put more signs and symptoms right here. And just take care of yourself as a mama. Hydrate yourself. And breastfeeding is a lot because you have to also maintain your breasts and they're still getting acclimated to feeding your baby. So just, be patient, do everything you need to do, but eventually the flow will regulate and everything will be easy, and it gets so much better, I promise. And lastly, as a breastfeeding mom, make sure you take care of yourself. Hydration is key. I like to drink coconut water because that has natural electrolytes, but also water is hydrating. And a tip with your water is to get a water bottle that closes. It has like a tightening lid, because you'll notice whenever you're breastfeeding is when you get your thirstiest, but you may not always have a water bottle around. So if you get a water bottle that has a closed lid, you can always bring it with you, throw it on the couch, throw it on the bed, because when you happen to sit down to breastfeed your baby, it'll be right there and it'll be easy access for water. So you will be so thirsty and also hungry when breastfeeding, so just keep nutritional snacks around. Always have a water on standby. That is all of my breastfeeding, what I wish I would have known. Super simple. You can do this. It is definitely a learning curve, but it's beautiful. I want to just leave this off on, even if you're only breastfeeding for a week, 3 months, a year, 2 years, do what's best for you and your baby. There is no, you have to do it for this long. Don't feel guilty if you don't. You have to do postpartum depression tip. #1 is you have to do what's best for your family and for you, most importantly. So do what's best for you. If you've tried all of these tips and it's just not working out for you, do what's best for your baby. Find a very natural, clean formula. There's some formulas that you can make at home. I don't know if you're scared of something like that, but I will try to link some type of resource in the description box. But do what's best for your baby and you. And if you are a breastfeeding mom and you've been doing it for a while, give yourself the biggest pat on the back, the biggest award. Go treat yourself, because it is seriously a full-time job and you deserve it. I hope that these tips and some of this what I wish I would have known helps you. Any of this resonates. If it does, again, let me know in the comments. I would love to read about your journey, and hit that like button if you like this video, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.